There's like so many.
Lepidolite is the sparkly purple. Rubellite are these pink things. Yo.
I'm looking at your camera right now.
Yeah. Can this look through there? What will it see? Will it see?
Yeah, look at yourself.
Can you see through there? Get it up close.
Oh, got it. Oh, it's just.
Get it up close.
Whoa, that's so weird. What? I'm looking at myself through a little. I feel like I'm in someone's colon.
What's going to be interesting, Gina has spent time at the Palermo Pegmatite, so we expect her to give an analysis of similarities and differences between Palermo and the Stewart.
Number one, there's no discharge of any kind of organic material in the mine, okay? No pooping, no peeing, no spitting, no food, no organic materials, please. Because the mine is warm, dark, and moist, and it's a great breeding ground for cholera and Legionnaire's disease and wonderful fun things like that. And so, please, no organic material in the mine. Number two, I'm going to assign you each a number as we enter the mine. And I want you to remember that number because I will ask you for your number, or I'll call you by your number as we leave. And that way I'm sure that we are not leaving anybody in there. I hate coming back a week later. You know, there's some horrifying whimpers and whining and things like that. And so, yeah, it's a good way to lose weight, though. Stay in the mine for a week. When your feet are moving, your light must be on. This is OSHA regulations, and I'm reciting to you. It's safety regulations. And then, lastly, let's see, what was it? There was the organic. Oh yeah, stay within earshot and eye shot of each other. I want you to stay so you can hear each other's voice at all times. Don't go off by yourself for any reason. There are 2.5 miles of tunnel in this mine, and if you get lost, it could take me 45 minutes to an hour to find you. And the rest of the group will be late, and they will then, there's a little punishing area where we'll send you. So that's the basic thing there. Now, if anybody gets claustrophobic in there, just let me know right away. But you shouldn't get claustrophobic because nearly all the tunnels are full size, 7 or 8 feet high, 7 or 8 feet wide. I drive machinery in the mine. That's what I go in to muck out the material that we sell in gem buckets down at the shop. Comes from the tunnels in here, and I take a front-end loader, a track loader in there, a diesel loader, and drive it around inside there. So if you've ever walked around in the hallways of a large office building, if you're claustrophobic there, you might be claustrophobic here, but most people aren't. So you'll get in here, and I think you'll feel very relaxed. The temperature is always 70 degrees. Why is that?
Airflow in the ground.
No?
It's underground.
Yeah, it's underground. What does that mean?
Insulation. It's insulated.
Well, it's insulated from what, though? I mean, why is it always 70 degrees? It means the heat comes from what?
Below.
It comes from
the earth.
From the core of the earth. So if the heat was, if it was a lot cooler in the mine, what would that mean?
The earth was cooler.
No, it would mean that the crust was thicker. And the hot part of the earth was a little further away. As you get into a mine tunnel, if you get in only like 75 to 100 feet, and you begin to get the ambient temperature of the rock, and you find that it's 80 or 90 degrees, you know you're in a hotspot area. And that's why this is so tectonically active, is because it's relatively thin in regard to some other areas. How many of you have never been in a mine before? Oh, awesome. Okay, this is going to be a fun experience.
Headcam/headlight.
Okay, Blue wants you to come in single file and he'll give you a number.
And you two guys are exempt. The rest of you, I'm going to give you a number, okay? Can you see down there, there's a little concrete column straight down there? Can you see that?
Okay.
You might want to take the dark shades off. There you go. Now you
I totally forgot about it.
Use your cane to find it. So go and stand there and stop everybody from going any further, okay? You're number 1, all right? You're number 2. You're number 3. You're number 4. You're number 5. You're number 6. You're number 7. You're number 8.
Is my light on?
Yeah. Are both my lights on?
Yes, they don't shine.
Was he talking about this thing?
Why are you freaking out?
This
That
is...
sounded like George Costanza when you said that.
That was
I'm already freaking out.
freaking out in here. I feel like one of the 7 dwarfs.
Yeah, there you go.
There's gems just glistening on these.
Well, we're going to stand here and just talk for a second because, first of all, I want to welcome you all to the Stewart Mine.
Can I shine a little flashlight on?
Yeah, you can. That would be useful. Is that enough?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Stewart Mine, everybody. This is an amazing mine. It has incredible history. The technical name for this mine is the Stewart Lithia Mine. And the lithium part of it comes from the fact that this mine was originally mined for lithium. Lithium is the third element of the periodic table. It has certain properties that are very unique. I could go on and on about those, but lithium is a very important element of Corning ware and Pyrex, and because it has a strange property in its contraction and expansion properties, it does the opposite of what all other matter in the universe does. Weird enough? Lithium's got lots more weird things than that. That's why Gene Roddenberry, who was a Bachelor of Science in Geology, always had the Starship Enterprise looking for what?
Lithium crystals.
Dilithium crystals, that's right. Captain, we're getting kind of low on the batteries here. So that little anecdote will help you remember that lithium is something that you really want to check into. On the periodic table, what is it, a really heavy element?
Light.
It's light. It's number 3 on the periodic table. Hydrogen, helium, and lithium. So lithium right now is being used extensively for batteries. It's a huge industry right now. We have some big, mega, giant corporations trying to muscle me around as we speak so they can get their hands on this mine because it's got a vast amount of lepidolite in it. And the lepidolite, back in the early 1930s, was stopped here as far as mining was concerned for lithium because they found that they could extract lithium from salt brines, from brines. The salt deposits, they're in places like Argentina and also at the Salton Sea and at Searles Lake. And so now we have a very high price for electrical energy. The resource of electrical power that allows lithium to be anodized so easily is now too expensive. And so now actually crushing lepidolite or petalite or spodumene will actually bring about lithium at a very comparable price. Now, that's why people are now looking at pegmatites that contain large deposits. The Stewart Mine has enormous deposits of lepidolite, also large deposits of spodumene clays and other lithium-rich minerals. So that is a huge asset to the United States. Secondly, back in the early days when the American Lithia Company of New York owned this mine, in the late 1800s, 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, up to the turn of the century, the American Lithia Company of New York hired a lot of people. 128 people worked here in those days. Now, 88 of that 128 people were of Chinese extraction. Now, it was a time when there were a lot of Chinese people here in California because of a certain find in 1849. Does anybody know what that find was here in California? Gold! That's right. Gold was discovered in the Comstock area, the central part of the state. And people from all over the world reacted quickly. Gold is being found on the surface, nuggets, 6, 8, 10, 20 ounces in size. And men flocked here from all over the world, especially from China. And so there were a large number of Chinese people working up in that area in 1849, 1850, but by 1851, most people don't realize, all the available easy diggings on the surface were gone. Now these guys weren't educated, they weren't geologists, they didn't have metal detectors, that's for sure, you know, and most of them had no education at all. Many of them couldn't even sign their name. But what they would do is walk around with a stick and go, oh, there's one, and put it in a bag. That was mining. And when the gold ran out in the Comstock area, the central part of the state, they began walking north and south looking for what? More gold. And so a lot of guys walk to the north, and people don't realize, they think a bunch of people from the Yukon and Alaska had their own little gold rush up there after California. No, this is a whole untold story in history. It was the same guys. Now, Do you get a little annoyed when you have to drive down the interstate and there's not a McDonald's every, look, these guys had to walk through total no infrastructure, no roads, nothing. Certain tribes were friendly, certain tribes would kill them in a heartbeat. Wild animals, diseases they never encountered before. See everything in those terms, but anyway, that's another subject. So these guys were down in Oceanside and Carlsbad, and they began coming up here and finding this rock, but a lot of them were Chinese guys. And when they sent their rocks, did they send them to London and Germany? They sent them to China. And somebody called Shu Shi. Shu Shi was the last Dowager Empress of China in the Qing dynasty. And there's some movies made, some really incredible books written. There was something called the Boxer Rebellion going on, and the Chinese workers began to send those two rocks back to China. And as it turned out, the Dowager Empress took tremendous interest, and I can go much deeper into that whole thing about Buddhism and how all these certain things apply, but she took tremendous interest in the pink tourmaline, huge. And she wanted all of it, and she sent royal emissaries from the Forbidden City. Have you guys ever been to the Imperial Palace in China? In Beijing? From there came her what would you call them? Ambassadors, emissaries, to come here to where you are right now. Because the Chinese workers that were employed by the American Lithia Company were being allowed to work at night to find tourmaline. The American Lithia Company didn't give a damn about tourmaline. They cared about lepidolite, lithium. And they thought these Chinese guys were quaint, interesting, different, because they got into this tourmaline stuff. Well, the Stewart mine was not known as a tourmaline mine. People knew it was here. People had seen the tourmaline, they'd seen it cut, but there wasn't a huge need for this tourmaline because tourmaline was coming out of other areas, and the huge amount of lithium was what it was all about. And so after the Boxer Rebellion came something called the Exclusion Act, and all the Chinese people left the area. And that's something else we could go into in a big way, the Exclusion Act. All of a sudden, all the Chinese people left, and they shut down their tourmaline operations. You guys probably learned this already. And it sat in a sealed tunnel. It became a legend like UFOs, like Bigfoot, like Nessie. And nobody believed that tunnel existed until 1970, when two gentlemen, Bill Larson and Ed Swoboda, hired a man named Terry Zenix. And Terry Zenix, Zenix site is named after him, was working for him. And he started drilling and blasting over on this side of the hill. And without any belief at all that there was even a Chinese tunnel, suddenly one day his blast went awry, he thought. His blast suddenly went instead of kaboom. I mean, I love drilling and blasting. I've been doing this for decades, and the sound and the feel of a blast. It goes, you guys like your subwoofers in your cars these days and all that stuff? Nothing like a really good blast. When you're standing near the entrance of the mine, you feel the concussion wave come through the air, but the strongest thing is it goes right through your skeleton, right through the ground. And I know what he meant when he said something was wrong. The blast just went all soft. And when he walked down the tunnel that he'd been drilling from the outside into the mountain to try to find tourmaline, he had accidentally hit the old Chinese tunnel, the same one that they had locked up and left back 70 years earlier. And when he got in there, he found ore cars, and you saw part of an ore car sitting outside today. That shelter area where the couches and the desks are and everything, if you look at that shelter area, it's made out of the tracks, the rail tracks from underground in the tunnels. We took those out and made that shelter out of it. Can you believe my cell phone is working down there? Oh,
pretty good. What is it, AT&T?
Yeah, it is. I can't believe it. Anyway.
Why am I taking video of a rock?